Welcome to the world's favorite youth baseball podcast, Clearing the Bases, featuring Coach Jimmy, Phil, and Jerry. I'm David Friedman, and I want to thank you for coming along this ride with us. How are we doing today, Coach?
You know, I'm doing great today, Dave. We get to release the 2023 ABCA Convention episode. You know, we talked about taking this show on the road. And, man, I got to tell you, I'm really, really glad that we did. I had a great time, number one, at the convention, but I got to sit down and talk to a bunch of really great guys. We're going to start this off with three of the coaches that I sat down with, Anthony Pla, Buzz McNish, and Jake Lindmeier. And I got to tell you something. These guys were great. And, you know, I like the fact that we're going to be able to give our listeners a little peek into what it's like to be at the convention. So let's start this off with Anthony Pla, and let's see what he had to say. So we're here at the convention with Anthony Pla from Lincoln University. It's great to see you again, Ant.
Great to see you as well, Jim.
So what's going on? Talk to me.
ABCA, man, it's like Disneyland for coaches. It's the time of year where we get a chance to kind of refresh, regroup, learn some new stuff, meet some old friends, make a lot of new ones, network. You know, this is the 4 or 5 days where we get a chance to kind of be ourselves as baseball coaches and softball coaches, because there's plenty of them here.
Yep.
You know, 8,000 people. There's somebody going to run into wherever you go, and we're just excited to be here and continue to learn and continue to get better for our program.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. Being here, for me, is like a kid in a candy store. Rekindling old friendships. There's a lot of people that I meet throughout the year virtually, whether it be instant messages and stuff like that, but I never really meet personally. And to meet a lot of people and put a face to the name, to me, is priceless.
And you know, it's funny too, like, you know, we're going to all these different sessions, and there's a trade show, and you have the hot stoves, and you know, I'm sure you've looked around and wherever you've been, there's a hot stove going on everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, there's where we're standing right now, there's probably 50 or 60 hot stoves going on, and they're happening all day long.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have the camaraderie with all the coaches from all different areas and different levels, and you know, you go out into downtown or wherever you stay around the hotel area, and they're just, anywhere you go, you're going to get to have a conversation with somebody about baseball, regarding baseball, kids, player development, strength conditioning, whatever it may be. And this is the place that you're going to have a chance to get so many different perspectives and maybe kind of have an open mind.
Yes.
You know?
I mean, I can't tell you how many presentations that I go to that I get a little out of this one, I get a little out of that one, and the next thing you know, all of the stuff that you learned here becomes part of your program, becomes part of your everyday routine, and I just think that it's fantastic. One of the things, too, that's pretty cool is that you were probably one of our first guests, if not our first guest on the podcast. So again, here to be able to see you again and bring back somebody that I think that we spoke probably 2 years ago on the show.
Yeah.
And to do what we're doing now, it's just unbelievable.
It's pretty awesome. And again, you know, I think this is my 7th or 8th convention in a row that I've been to. I've been a member for a long time, and I was always trying to get here. And my first convention I remember was in Anaheim. And you know, I spoke with a couple guys from the ABCA at the time, and they were like, listen, you're going to get a lot of information, and you're going to get overwhelmed by all the people and, you know, who's who of baseball. You know, you're going to bump into your big-time Division I coaches. And, you know, sure enough, we're downstairs at a restaurant, whatever the case may be, and there's Augie. And he's like, yeah, what are you doing?
Really?
Yeah, come over.
Wow.
I never met the guy. He doesn't know me. But all those guys are like that. Tim Corbin's like that. You know, I'm drawing a blank, Savage from UCLA. Like, my point is this, is that, you know, you don't know who knows you. You have no idea. I mean, people follow your stuff, and everybody posts things about what they want to do, especially if you want to get better at this game. And I don't think all the content that you put out is about, you know, getting recognition. It's about people trying to learn, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I notice, what we teach our guys, and maybe it'll help somebody else.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I think, you know, you when you get some validation from people, it's kind of interesting how it all comes full circle when you come to an event like this.
Exactly. I mean, let's face it. I mean, how did I meet you? We followed each other on Twitter.
Yep.
I reached out to you. You were gracious enough to accept to come on the show, which I don't know if you even remember when I first contacted you. I was like, geez, you think that maybe, you know, you'd be interested in coming? And you were like, what, are you nuts? Yeah, of course I'll
absolutely.
come on.
You know, and it was at a time, you know, when we we're in a situation where we were in a pandemic and everything that we were doing was on Zoom, and all we did was learn through Zoom in the baseball world, and I'm sure every other world was the same way, right? But through that, we made a lot of contacts, and some of those contacts that we've made across along that time, we're now meeting up here, and we're getting pictures together, and we're getting, we're having lunch together, and we're sitting in the same places, and now I've had 6 of my friends get up on stage,
Yeah.
and do their own thing on stage, and like, had we not had that pandemic, I don't know if we'd be in that boat, but I'm sure this camaraderie doesn't change because it's just an amazing situation.
Right, and you're not giving yourself credit too because you were a presenter on that stage also.
I was, but the only reason why I was a presenter was because, again, you put out content and you hope it sticks somewhere, and I don't think most people that are putting out content are putting it out because they want to go next level. They want to keep going to the next level.
Sure.
Like, that wasn't what I was trying to do. What I was trying to do was help whoever it was. And I had people before me, Kai Correa, Tucker Frawley, all those guys, and infield guys, Tyler Gillum, Clay Cox, Trent Mongero, Nate Trosky, the list goes on and on, Tyler Smarzlot, Dylan Mazzo. Like, it's craziness. And it's because of those guys that I was like, well, let me throw some stuff together because now it seems like it's validated, but I do a little bit different.
Right.
And maybe somebody else does it that way. And, we always talk as coaches that there's not a cookie cutter way to do it. Everyone's a little bit different. You got different sizes and shapes and speeds and athletes and all that stuff like that. So, you have your youth guys, you have your high school guys, you have your college guys, you have your pro guys, and everyone's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah.
So everything's going to help somebody.
Exactly.
And, I was humbled and very thankful to be asked to go on the stage after doing a Barnstormers in the same year. And, I'm still thankful for that. And I'm thankful for that because I've created friendships and a network system that, people that I can call on now to lean on and like, hey man, what do you think about this? Hey man, what do you think about that? And it's been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, like you had just said about guys doing things different ways and you do it one way, another guy does it. Well, what I love about that is it keeps us thinking. When I hear somebody, like I just went in and I listened to Zach's presentation, and he had a couple of things in there that he does differently than I do. And I said, I write my notes. It went right in. I said, you know what? I'm going to try it. I like it. So we all become better coaches by coming here because we're learning more stuff, and it's just really, really amazing. This is my 4th, and I can't see for the rest of my life missing one.
I said the same thing, and it's always a tough time of year because it's right after the New Year and the holidays and stuff like that, and it's right before school gets going again. But I don't think you can miss something like this if you really want to be in this game and help your kids get better. Like we're all going to continue to learn. We're lifelong learners. We read books. We listen to podcasts. We watch the guys on the main stage. We watch the guys on the youth stage. We listen to the hot stuff. Like there's so many ways to learn and get information, and this is one of the best ones to do it because everyone's here.
Everyone's here.
And then when you leave here, and this is something that, if people do get anything out of our conversations that we have, when people come here, and this is something I learned my first year coming to the ABCA in Anaheim, was you're going to get stuff out of a fire hose.
Yes.
And, I don't know if you can implement stuff immediately because you've never actually tested it before. And the way that I've used it in all these years, excuse me, is I take a little bit at a time, I implant it here or there, and see if it sticks. And then, as the fall comes when we do all of our developmental stuff, that's when I try it and see if it works. And if it sticks and it works, then now it's part of my program. And the guys that do travel ball, that college coaches that do travel ball stuff, I'm sure they'll do some stuff over the summertime because all those guys want to learn. Those players want to learn new things also. But you can't just throw it in there if you've never done it before. Like, it looks cool. It's like, that's a great idea. Like, this is a really good catching technique. This is a really great outfield drill. This is an unbelievable infield pattern. Our guys have no idea, never seen it before, and I've never taught it before. So how do I know it's going to stick? So when I talk to the younger guys, the younger coaches that are here that ask me questions all the time, because I'm asking those guys, the older guys as well.
Sure.
When they ask me questions, I said, be who you are. Don't change anything. Who are you? Are you an infield guy? Are you an outfield guy? Are you eclectic? Can you jack of all trades? Can you do a little bit of everything? Which is what I had to do for so many years.
Sure.
Great. But if you know the information, make sure you have it all. Make sure you work through the plan and then execute your plan.
Right.
And then if it works well with your team and you think that it's going to help somebody, so I think that's what the end result is usually. Usually these drills and skills that you see on all these stages, somebody on your team, it kind of clicks with that guy. Like, man, like, Mikey or Johnny, like, Mikey would really do well with this drill. I've never been able to figure out a way to get this guy to do a better drop step. Well, this thing might help him.
Right.
And I think that's where some coaches want to implement, but they've never tried it before, so it may not work.
Right. So, yeah, to your point, yes, you definitely have to have a testing ground for it. And to your point also about drinking from a fire hose. But that's one of the great things that they've done, where now they put all of the videos online.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, I know that I go back and I refine what note, because I'm feverishly taking notes. And, you know, you can't get everything.
No, 100%.
So you go back, you use these videos, you can pause it, right? And just a wonderful thing.
And as you're taking notes and you know, you're looking down at your paper, you're writing some notes down, he might say something that you missed. And when you go back to it, like, man, while I was writing, I didn't catch that part. And then there's the drills on, you know, the drills that they show. Like you get to see all those all over again and see how they're run and stuff like that. It's honestly amazing. There's so many great minds in the world of baseball. I mean, I don't know if there's people here that, and I'm sure that, you know, there's, you can have some arguments about why somebody doesn't think that will work for somebody, but maybe it works for somebody specific, that's why they do that drill there. So I don't ever question all these guys about how they do stuff and why they do stuff. You know, the hitting guys, they've got their way of doing things, and I have my way of hitting with our program. But it's always great to learn something new because, again, maybe Mikey or Johnny need something a little bit different than the rest of you guys have. And I think, man, this place is, again, it's like Disneyland. You eyes wide open, handshaking everybody, giving bro hugs to everybody. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So now you college guys get ready to go in another couple of days. What do you got planned for the season?
So this will be the first time in my career at Lincoln that we have a full roster, 35 players, 17 pitchers. So this will be the first time for me that I'm going to kind of learn how to manage a program of that size. So we start on Tuesday, and you know, we're going to probably be inside for the most part. Obviously, you know, we're a northeastern team, and so we'll be inside for the most part. But if we can get outside, we'll be outside. And I just think we already know what we need to do. We know our plan, we know our defensive strategies, we know our offensive strategies. Now it's just a matter of getting us ready arm-wise, getting us ready mentally, getting us ready physically in our 5 weeks before we go play our first game. So these 5 weeks are going to be a little bit of a lot. And, you know, we'll bring our guys into groups. We'll bring them into different sections because we only got a gym to use and a couple batting cages. So, but we're excited about getting going. I know the guys are excited about getting going because we had a really good fall. We ended on a really good note. Our pitchers we're still throwing bullpens going through November, so we shouldn't have to go backwards too much, which means we can go live pretty quickly and you know, get ready for our first games in early February.
So the one thing that you said that really says a lot is that you've been there for how many years now?
15.
And you said that you have, for the first time, you have an actual full roster. Okay, so to me, what that says is that you're doing something right because you're getting kids to come to you to play for you. So that's, you know, something that you should be proud of. That, again, it's like anything else. It's baby steps and it takes time, but you get there.
I am, and you know, we've talked about this the last time that I was on with you, and it's been a really bumpy road as far as how the transition happened from going D3 to D2 and being an HBCU program, playing in an HBCU conference, the conference dropping baseball, having to go into a whole different conference that is the competition is a little bit better it's a lot better than the old conference, and just trying to be able to compete against those schools for the same players is now a little bit harder, and we also don't have, you know, resources, and I don't want to cry about it and
no, but you hear that a lot.
We do. We don't have the resources, but at the end of the day, if you can coach, you can coach. And I think we thankfully, we have Coach Connor, who's come on my staff 4 years ago, who's been unbelievable for us and helped us grow, and which is why we went from 21 guys to 36 guys, and he's been a really big part of that. You know, our last 2 or 3 classes, we've had 8, 12, and 13 guys. So that's why our roster is as big as it is. And with him, he's the pitching guy, so our pitchers have gotten better, and it gives me a little bit more opportunity to just work more with our defense and our hitters. But, you know, if we have another coach, maybe it helps more. If we have more scholarship, maybe it helps more. And I get all that, and I understand that. And I'm not saying that we're like, you know, the Vanderbilts and the Texases and stuff like that in the world where you have a full staff and you have the GAs and things like that. We have what we have. Yeah. And we're going to work with what we have, and we're going to get our players to work hard for us and work hard for each other and go out and compete. And that's all I can ask them to do at the end of the day.
And it sounds like you're doing a good job of getting that done. So, look, it was great having you. like I said, one of the first, you may have been the first guest I had, and to be able to speak to you and do something here. But I want to leave the door open because I want to get you back on the show at some point. We'll do maybe after your season. We'll do like a little recap of how your season went, and we'll do another full show. I think that because your show did great, a lot of people, download it, listen to it, stuff like that. So I really want to thank you for coming on again, and good luck. I
appreciate you having me, and it was great to see you again, as always. And I know you're busy getting a lot of guys on and I'll be honest with you, I tell all our little group that we've had. We're talking about our pandemic group that we created in this sense here. I'm like, go talk to Jimmy. Go give him a shout, because there's a lot of great baseball minds. We got catching guys, outfield guys, infield guys. I got pro guys, high school guys, college guys, JUCO guys. We got softball girls. It's pretty awesome, and I appreciate you doing what you do, and I appreciate you giving a voice to baseball coaches of all ranges. So thank you for doing what you do. Appreciate you.
You're kidding. I love this. I could talk baseball forever. Number one. Number two is, like you said, with your group, there's all different coaches, different levels, all of this stuff, which is great. We all, and I guarantee you, I don't care what coach you talk to, we all understand that we got to work with the young guys. We got to help the young guys to get so that you guys have players eventually. And I've been humbled by how many people want to come and talk about how we can do something to make youth baseball better. And that was the whole reason why I did this, was just, I don't know, let me see if I can get something out there so people maybe start to understand that this is not about winning trophies and yelling and screaming at kids and all of the nonsense that we all know we hear about. There's a really good side to this, and it could be a lot of fun. So, I enjoy it, and I love having guys like you on.
And we all appreciate it. We all appreciate, again, what you're doing for the game, and hopefully you continue to grow in this space, and I think you will. I think you'll get some good guys on there. You've already had a few good guys that I've seen. And, we'll help in any way we can. So let me know. I'm ready to come back whenever you need me.
I love it.
Appreciate it.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you so much.
So how cool was that? To be able to sit down and have just a 15-minute conversation with a great coach like Coach Pla. Again, you're probably going to hear me say this a million times through this episode of this podcast, that it's just a wonderful place to be for baseball coaches. So the next clip that we're going to go into, we move into the high school range with a coach from Fulton High School in Knoxville, Tennessee. His name is Buzz McNish. I got a chance to sit down with him and take a listen, see what he had to say. Okay, so we're here with Buzz McNish from Fulton High School in Knoxville, Tennessee, correct?
Correct.
So Buzz is an Eastern Tennessee Baseball Coaches Association Hall of Famer. Am I right?
Sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, that's a great accomplishment, a great honor.
It is. That organization was actually started in 1981 by the head coach of the University of Tennessee, and then it's existed since then, and it's a pretty big organization throughout East Tennessee.
And how long have you been coaching?
This is my 25th year.
Wow. Wow, you don't look that old. You look
I started very young.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Well, I can relate to that a little bit because I started young also, but it was a complete disaster.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I totally understand that. So my first year as an assistant coach, I went back to my high school alma mater, my last year of college after I was done playing. I went back there, was an assistant, and was actually an assistant with somebody who was a college teammate of mine, and it was his first year coaching and my first year, so it was a real disaster, like you said. And he did it for a year, and he's like, this is not for me, and he got out. And we had another coach, so I was an assistant to a second person the second year. It wasn't a whole lot better. And so then the third year, they made me the head coach. And actually, I had learned my lessons those first 2 years experiencing that. The first thing I did, I went and got 2 assistant coaches who had coached a whole lot longer than me and knew a whole lot more than I did, because I knew if I didn't do that, I was going to end up the same way. Right. Same way those first couple of guys did.
Right.
I was an assistant to.
Train wreck.
Yeah. And a cool story about that is one of the people that I got to be an assistant coach, I ended up marrying his daughter. So
really?
I got a laugh out of it. Yeah.
So it really worked out for
That's
you.
right.
That's fantastic.
Yeah. So,
When that disaster happened, I didn't coach for a very long time. And I said, well, you know what? I'm going to do this, but this time I'm going to do it right. So it took a lot of work, I mean, you know what goes into it, and how much you have to study and you have to learn. And it's an interesting ride, and I'm sure you're the same way. You have to be very passionate about what you do.
sure, you have to be passionate, and I think it's important that you surround yourself with good people, and don't be afraid to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you and know more than
I
you
love
do.
that.
And you know, if you can be passionate about it, but if you don't surround yourself with people that are passionate about it too, then it'll wear on you pretty quick. So it's important that you surround yourself with good people.
Yeah, I never want to be the smartest guy in the room, but in my case, I never have to worry about that.
I tell our assistant coaches that all the time. That's one of the things I tell them, you know, on the front end and at the beginning of every year. You know, we don't need yes men. You know, if you've got a better way of doing something, we need to talk. Let's do it. And you know, I think that's important to growing your program, and it's important to growing as a coach, and it also helps you get good people because. You know, unfortunately, there's a lot of assistant coaches. They don't get a whole lot of say in the programs they work in, and I think it's a good thing for people to know that you're going to give as an assistant coach, you're going to give them a voice in your program.
Yeah, I mean, I could say my assistant coach at the high school where I coach, last year was his first year with me, and I let him run. I was happy as you could possibly imagine. I was like, okay, you take the infielders, I'll do this, and I let him run. And we do everything as a team. He and I are a team. It's not that I'm the head coach or the assistant coach, we do it my way. No. We work as a team, and I think that's the way it has to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's your kids who gets the benefit from having a coaching staff like that, and that's what we're all in it for as the kids. So I think that's an important part of it.
Yeah, absolutely in it for the kids. So when did you get here?
Late last night. So my wife is a middle school athletic director, and they had 8th grade night last night, so we couldn't leave till they were done. So we didn't get here till late.
So what type of presentations are you thinking about seeing?
You know, I don't know that I have anything specific. I kind of try to see. I went to earlier today. I saw the guy from Arizona State with the diversity in baseball. I think that's. You know, and I'll see some stuff. I mean, obviously a little bit of hitting, a little bit of defense, a little bit of everything. I think when I go to clinics, I try to get, hit on all aspects of the game, so, you know, whether it's on the field and off the field, and try to get something out of each presentation you can take back and implement or talk about with your coaches and see how it fits your program.
Yeah, I feel that I like to, you know, get to as many as I can, kind of what you just said. And I found that what I wind up doing is I take a little bit from this guy, a little bit from that guy. I make it my own. And I think that that's one of the great things about this convention is that, like what we're doing right now, is just sitting with a bunch of baseball guys, learning about baseball, talking about baseball, and trying to make ourselves better.
I think I always try to take all of our coaching staff to a clinic once, and we usually go to the state clinic, the Tennessee State clinic. But one of the things that we do is our coaches go to each session, and at the end of the night, we sit down and we all compare notes about what we heard, because you might hear something a little different than I hear, you know, than what I heard in the same presentation. But we sat down every night and we compare our notes and we go through what we heard that we liked and might work for us, and then we talk about it and how can we implement that. And again, I think that's a big part. I think it's important that a coach doesn't get stuck in their ways. They're willing to evolve, and they're willing to grow, and they're willing to learn new things. You know, I don't know that the game changes that much, but how you deal with kids changes, and how you teach them changes. And you know, I think you have to evolve, or you get left behind.
Yeah, I feel that we. You know, we're all not perfect, obviously. We make mistakes. The better coaches are the guys who understand those mistakes and try to better themselves so they don't happen again, as like what you were just saying, as opposed to I know everything. This is the way I've been doing it for so many years. And you know what? I mean, I'm not a young guy. I'm still looking to, I'll learn something from one of my players. If they say to me, I'll use as an example, this happened one time, and I can't remember what it was about, but one of my players said, you know, hey, coach, I had a coach who did something like this, and I said, show me. So he showed me. I said, okay, you know, whatever, I let it go, and I thought about it, and I said, you know what, that makes more sense than what I was doing. I'll take what I'm not proud that way, that I have to say, you know.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I do for the State Coaches Association. I do a mentoring program for new coaches.
Right.
And one of the things that we always talk about, we do a session at the state clinic every year. One of the things that we talk about is not being set in your ways and being willing to listen to people and talk to people, because it's hard to survive if you don't. If you go into it with the attitude, and you know that I already know everything, I don't need to listen to somebody else tell me what to do. You know, you're gonna stub your toe a whole lot, and you're gonna create a lot of problems for yourself. That you know, and that's why one of the things that we saw is there were a lot of people getting into coaching, and they would coach for 2 or 3 years and they were gone, they were out of it. And I think that has a lot to do with it. Is being willing to learn or not learn. That's gonna be what keeps you in the game.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot of times, that guys who have played at high levels believe that that's all they need to be coaches. And I can tell you from experience, and I'm sure you know, that they're two different animals.
Absolutely. That was one of the things, and I learned that early on coaching we actually had a clinic, and this was probably my second year as an assistant coach, and we had a couple major league guys, and we had a big group of kids out there, and kids were trying hard, and so one of the major league guys said, well, we need to do this with them. I don't know if they can do that. And he said, well, that's the way we did it when I played in the big leagues. I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that. And that was my first, and I thought about that, just what you were saying. I thought about that, thought, just because you play at a higher level, you still got to be willing to. Playing there and coaching are not the same thing.
Right.
And that's why it's important that you evolve, regardless of what level that you play.
Right. I feel that a lot of times what happens with higher level athletes is they can't understand why you can't do what I'm telling you to do.
Yeah.
Because it came natural to them.
Sure.
They're different than everybody else. Our job is, well, you're also a teacher, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so as coaches, we're just teaching baseball. We're baseball teachers. That's what we do.
Yeah.
So you have to take them, from 1 + 1 is 2, and move them up to where they're doing advanced algebra.
Right. Absolutely. I think that's why in the education world, teachers don't like to hear that coaches can help a teacher be a little bit better teacher. But it's the same thing. You have to learn, and as a coach, and especially in high school, you don't necessarily get to pick your players. You get what comes to you, so you better figure out how to teach them to be successful. And that can spill over in the classroom too, and make you a better teacher in the classroom, because you have to figure out a lot of things, and maybe do some things a little bit unorthodox, or things, that you wouldn't, it's not normally the way you would do it, but this is what I've got to work with, so I got to figure out how to make it work, and it's the same, you have to do that same thing in the classroom too.
Right, how do I reach this kid, right?
Sure.
Yeah. And what do I have to do? Because what may work on little Johnny may not work on little Petey, so, we have to know how we're going to handle it with one player versus another, and,
And that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, evolving as a coach, because when I started, I thought, well, you just coach them all the same. Well, they're not all the same. You can't coach them. If you're going to coach them all the same, you're going to fail a whole lot of them. Every kid's different. You got to teach every kid and coach every kid a little bit different.
Yeah, I mean, and I know there are kids on some of my teams where I got to get on them. All right, they all know that I love them to death, but there's some guys that I'll kick in their ass without a problem. There's other guys I would never ever do that to, because it won't work with them.
Right.
So you have to take a different approach. So I think that, as coaches, we learn that.
Sure. Yeah.
So how long have you been a member of the ABCA?
Ooh. I have to get my card out and check.
Roughly.
Probably 13, 14 years, somewhere in there probably.
How many conventions?
Ooh. I don't know. I've probably been to 9 or 10.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, this is my 4th.
Well,
Okay, so I've been a member for about 6 years, 7 years, and this is my 4th convention. What do you think? Talk about the convention a little bit.
well, it's kind of the Disney World of baseball. I think it's cool because you get a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different levels of coaches, all in the same place, and you get to meet a lot of people that and people from different parts of the country. I think that's always something pretty neat. And in the Expo Center, Expo Theater downstairs, all the vendors. I mean, there's if you can't walk away from here learning something or finding something that can help you didn't try real hard.
I was just going to say, there's so much that they offer.
One of the things that I really like about the ABCA is they have the main stage, but they also have the youth stage. I've actually found myself in the youth room more this time than the main room.
Yeah.
So I think they do a good job of something for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting what you said, because again, we're both high school coaches. You would think that we would be not going to youth clinics, but I'm the same way you are. I find myself more in those youth presentations than I do at the main stage type.
I think one of the things as a high school coach, you have so much involvement. In my opinion, if you're doing things the way that you should, you have so much involvement in youth ages and in younger teams. If you're just coaching high school and you're not understanding what's going on with the youth game too, and how to teach the youth game and what's going on in the youth game, you're creating problems for yourself,
right?
Within your high school program. So, I think it's important to do that.
And I also feel that, especially like in my case, because I'm a JV coach, I'm not a varsity coach. My job is to get the youth, the kids I have are 14, 15 years old, to get them ready for varsity coaches.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff in those youth clinics that can help you reach these younger kids.
Right.
And I also think that it's important. I don't know. I mean, give me your opinion on what you're seeing, because I have a pet peeve that I feel like every year I'm getting players that know less and less about the game.
Yeah. Well, I think we have a problem with our youth system in our country that they're playing a whole lot of games but not learning a whole lot of baseball. And all the games are good, but you got to learn some baseball too. One of my really good friends, he started a 9 and under team, and we talked about that. He was of the same opinion. These kids are playing all these games, but they're not learning the game. They don't have the skill to play, that many games. So he started a team, a 9 and under team, and they were going to play. He told them, we're going to have one practice for every game that we play. We're going to play 2 weekends a month. So we're going to practice for 2 weeks leading up. Practice a week, then play a week. Practice, so that it'll end up being a practice for every game that we play. So they played the year, and he gets to the end of the year, and he starts talking to the parents about next year and getting stuff in order. And they're just like, well, we're playing somewhere else. And so how comes? Because they play more games on that other team. I said, well, you're missing the point. We're trying to learn the game, not just play a whole bunch of games.
Yeah.
So I think we've created a little bit of problem for ourselves with that system.
Yeah.
It is what it is, so we've got to figure out how to make the best of it.
I'll agree wholeheartedly that we don't practice as much as now. My high school team is different. We practice every day. We're going 6 days a week.
Right.
So we're going every day. But with the travel ball, this year at the end of the season, a bunch of parents, I sat down with the parents and I wanted to talk to them, how the season went and that type of thing. And that was the one thing they said to me, we didn't play enough games. And I was like, no, we played plenty of games. I don't think we practiced enough.
Right. And one of the things I think it creates for high school coaches is the kids grow up that they've played all these games, and not practiced much. And then they get to high school and they are practicing as much as they're playing. And it creates problems for a high school coach, and because the kids like, well, this is not as much fun because we're practicing all the time instead of playing. And,
right.
So that system, I think it helps a lot of kids, and kids do get more reps, but reps and understanding the game and knowing the game are not always the same.
Yeah, I could, without boring anyone, I can go into a million stories of things that I've seen, and I'm sure you've seen them also, that it really concerns me because they're simple, rudimentary things. Mm-hmm. Like, again, I don't want to get too in depth, but you hit a ground ball to shortstop, you better be busting it down there as hard as you can go. Yeah. And I've had kids at the JV level that will go halfway and stop.
Yeah.
And then when I get upset, because those are things that I really will lose my mind over,
mm-hmm.
they don't understand it. What are you talking about, Coach? It was an out.
Right.
So it's something that I think we need to fix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know what the solution is, but I do, like you said, I think we have created some problems for ourselves. But it's not going away, so we have to figure out how to adapt and do what's best for the kids and make the best of it.
Yeah, but like you say, I think that if we were sitting here right now during this conversation and you and I figured out a way to fix this, we'd be wealthy men.
You're exactly right. And when I first started coaching, I used to tell people about every 3 years or so, you could see a difference in kids and what they knew about the game and how they practiced and kind of what kids' expectations were coming into it. That was about every 3 or 4 years. You could really tell a difference. And then it got every 2 or 3 years you could tell a difference. And then it got about every year you could start telling a difference. And it wasn't always for the better, but again, it was the system that a lot of them grow up in. And the other thing, there's a bazillion teams. So,
yes.
A kid can bounce around until he finds a team that he can play whatever position he wants, as much as he wants. And then they get to high school and you got 40 people on a team and they don't deal with it very well. But that's a reality of, when you get that age, and we fail the kids growing up in that system because we've not prepared them for working hard and earning your spot and being a role player.
Yeah.
One of the other, I think that I feel like we have to teach, maybe the word's baseball etiquette. I feel like we have to teach that a whole lot more now than you used to, because people don't want to hold kids accountable for their behavior in that system growing up, because if they hold them accountable, then they'll just go to the next team. And then you don't have enough left to play. So,
yeah.
So I feel like, in high school, we're teaching that a whole lot more than we used to.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And accountability, yes. And again, I could tell you a million stories of kids that did something that, they should have done, and I held them accountable for it, and they didn't understand. They were like, what are you talking about?
Right. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So, I know, we were saying about, the answer. We know what the answer is. The problem is implementing it. The answer is education. Youth level coaches from the time kids are 5 all the way up till they get to varsity baseball, because I really believe that from when they first start playing up through the JV ranks, it's all developmental. varsity college is also developmental to a degree. However, that's more about winning. Varsity level, you have to win, otherwise coach loses his job. Same thing in college. So if we educate everyone from the varsity level down, then it's going to be a better world. The problem is you can't ram it down people's throat. So again, we know what the solution is, we just don't know how to implement it.
Yeah, I think there's truth to that. One of the things that I think is important is because I used to ask kids this, they come to try out, for their freshman year. I would ask them, how many of you have ever been to a high school baseball game before? Very few of them would raise their hand. How do you know what you need to be able to do? So,
Sure.
And my point in that is if the kids have never been to a high school game, and they don't know what they need to know, their parents probably don't either. And a lot of those parents, nothing against them, but a lot of those parents are probably coaching them, growing up. So what you're saying is I think it's important that, whether it's high school coaches doing clinics, in their local youth programs, or for their, or working together with their local travel programs, I think it's important for the coaches in those youth programs, those travel programs, to hear from high school coaches and what high school coaches need and what they're seeing and what they can, the youth level, the youth ages and travel, travel ages growing up, what they can do to help high school coaches and high school programs.
Do you, in your area, do you do a lot of that? Does like your high school coaches work with the local youth leagues?
Some. It's funny you asked that. I actually got a text message this morning about doing a clinic next Saturday, a week from today.
Good.
Or a week from tomorrow, actually.
Because I kind of set you up by asking you that question, but go ahead, finish.
Yeah, so that's something that we have talked about in our area a little bit and doing a little bit more of that. I think we're doing one next weekend. It's got, there's 3 high school coaches, and we're bringing in kids from, I think, 5 or 6 different middle schools and families and doing a clinic that way. So, yeah, I mean, that's something. And we're actually, I'm running a youth program now that has football, basketball, and baseball. And that's one of the things that we're doing in that program is if you're going to coach in our league, you have to go to a clinic with the local high school. If it's football program, you got to go. You're required to do a clinic with the local high school football coaches before we'll let you coach in the organization. Same thing with basketball. Same thing with baseball.
And how's that working?
Well, we're just starting, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know, because I'd really like to follow up on that to see how that worked out for you. But what you just said about taking the coaches and going to the middle school, that I never heard before. That's interesting. Yeah. Because I never thought of it, never heard of it. I always thought of it as like the high school coaches going to work with the local little league and stuff like that. But that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, in this particular camp, it's middle school kids, and then opening it up to, to other youth kids as well. So yeah, I mean, it will. I think the emphasis is with the middle school coaches and the middle school teams.
Because in essence, that's your feeder program. Right. So you want to get them. So we ran into a little technical difficulty there at the end of that conversation with Buzz, but I think you get the idea. There's a reason why he's a Tennessee Hall of Fame baseball coach. So our next clip that we're going to listen to is the interview that I did with Jake Lindmeier. Jake gave a great presentation on the youth stage, and I grabbed him right afterwards, and we sat down, and here's what he had to say. All right, so we're here at the convention. We're with Jake Lindmeier. Jake, great presentation.
Thank you, man.
I mean, it was fantastic. So tell us a little bit, where you're coaching, what you're doing.
So I am the head assistant at Brookhaven College, or Dallas College Brookhaven, however you want to call it. It's a D3 junior college in Dallas, very similar to the Herkimers and Niagaras up there. I also coach 18U National Softball And then I give youth lessons from 9U all the way to 18U, and then I work with some college and pro guys as well in the summer. So I stay busy and I work with all levels.
I was going to say, it sounds like you've been doing a lot, but you know what? I think all of us that are involved in baseball, if we have a passion for it, we love it. Yeah,
I don't have to sit at a desk. That's my favorite part. I don't have to sit at a desk. So
exactly. So let's talk a little bit about your presentation.
Okay.
One of the things that you were talking about were characteristics of a good catcher.
Yes, sir.
So let's run through that a little bit.
So for me, honestly, and I said it in the presentation, the more that I can have a field general coach on the field, the better off we're going to be. And I look at it as because I do all of our charts and game planning for the week. If I know we're facing a good catcher, we're probably shutting down the run game. Because I know we're going to have to be perfect, and we're going to have to really get jumps on the pitcher, or we're not going to steal bases.
Right.
So if you got a guy that can do that, and a guy that can receive really well, and we got a bad umpire back there that we know he's going to abuse, we got to tell our guys to swing the bat. Like, hey, you can't wait for your pitch today. Like, we got to go out there hacking because he's probably going to get a lot. And when you got guys that are a little bit weaker, where it's like, hey, we can run on him. He's probably not going to block very well. We can be a little bit more aggressive. He's not throwing very well. He's not receiving very well. Now you can be a little bit more selective at the plate. We can run a little bit more. We can do damage that way. So it's really about just having a guy back there that understands the game, can control the starting pitcher, the relievers, the closer, the crafty lefty, the crazy guys. Like the more that we can build off that, the better off we're going to be.
Right. You had said that at the younger levels, and how that is so important, because if you're at like higher levels, you're not running on those catches.
Yes and no. I mean, it's one of those things as far as like where the amateur game is right now. And I said it with us being able to lead off and pitchers not knowing how to hold runners on to begin with, like you're not in a position where you're going to have a really high throw percentage. If you throw two guys out in a 20, 25 game season, you did really good at 10 and 12 years old.
Sure.
So I take more focus on, can we control guys not running or stealing home on a block? Can we steal some strikes? Can we receive really well? Can you control the pitchers? And then as your arm gets stronger and the game slows down for us and the bases get bigger, then we can start focusing on that piece. And that's where I think the one knee down stuff and like putting guys in different positions setup wise works, because they're not, I don't care if you throw someone out because you're probably not going to do it anyways.
Right.
So if we can get your glove really good and your blocking really good, if all I have to teach you is how to throw, let's just get your arm stronger and then figure it out. Yep. But if you can grasp receiving, blocking, and game calling at the younger levels, the game slows down for you once you hit the bigger diamond, and you're going to be in position to have success anyways.
Sure. Yeah, it's like everything else, right? We want to take baby steps. We want to put it together. We don't want to throw it all at once.
Correct.
At someone. Because again, especially at the younger ages, they're going to get confused. They're not going to understand what we're doing. You would also mention something about at the younger levels now, which is a little odd, and I find it odd myself, is 9, 10, even 11, they're leading, which is putting a lot of pressure on young kids that we are trying to teach how to be catchers, because now they are in a position where they're trying to throw people out.
And I think if we take the pressure off stealing bases younger, and like, they're going to steal, let them go. It's not your fault. If you throw them out, great. But if they can start to understand the basics and we completely take that off their plate as far as like, I do not care if you throw one single runner out this season. They can still have fun knowing like, hey, I just threw that kid out. Yeah. Like, I didn't know if I was going to do that or not this year. And you can still make the game fun, and then that's just a cherry on the top.
Sure. It makes all the sense in the world. So I'm going to go through a lot of stuff that you talk about, obviously, in your presentation, because it's fresh in my mind. You talked about the extra 90, okay, and how that at the youth levels that's more important, that we don't give up, or obviously on offense we want to take that extra 90, but on defense we don't want to give it up.
Yeah. So for me, that's more of a pitcher. Like when we talk third base, not letting a guy score on a pass ball, yes. I think when I talk about giving extra 90s, if a guy hits a single to the outfield and there's a runner on second, and he's going to score, knowing to come out from behind the plate and yell, hey, we're going two to keep that guy at first. Even if he's going to steal the next pitch,
Yes.
understanding the game situations is we want to not give up extra 90s.
Yeah.
Guy goes first to third, keep the guy off second. Know when you can throw someone out. And I do a drill with younger kids where we put all the runners at first base, we put guys in the outfield, we have the catchers and third baseman there. And we have a coach standing at second base just to pick it up. Kid runs as soon as I throw the ball up, and he's got to read. The outfielder's got to read, can I throw him out? The catcher's got to read, can we get him out? And there's got to be a communication piece in there and whatever. Once you play in a stadium of 5,000, you can't hear. Like, it goes completely on the outfield.
Sure.
Like, outfield and infielders like to do that. Like, the communication piece isn't there when a home team's screaming with 5,000 people. You can't communicate there. But when it's just the 50 parents that are at the game and a couple brothers and sisters and family, we can communicate, and if we can communicate and teach kids how to communicate, the communication piece becomes nonverbal.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. So
Yeah.
in a non-verbal way.
Correct.
Right. And you just touched on a big pet peeve of mine with youth baseball players is trying to get them to understand what you just said about that runner not taking that extra base.
But if we don't ever put them in a game-like situation in practice and we just talk about, okay, this play, you're going to throw it to second, this play, you're going to throw it to third, and they don't have a live runner, they don't know.
Sure.
So then it turns into, like, we turned it into a base running game, we turned it into tag-ups, we talk through a lot of stuff, but there's a lot of moving pieces, and that's why, like, the presentation I put on, I wanted to do it for a coach that has 12, 13 players and only 1 or 2 assistants, and they're probably dads. So the more that you can get everybody involved in simulated situations without us talking just straight simulations,
Right.
everybody gets better.
Sure. Sure. It's practicing those little things that matter, putting them in those situations in practice time and drilling. So, yeah, hopefully it'll become second nature, and during a game they'll just perform. But, yeah, it's very interesting. So let's move into something that you had said about, well, let's go to this first because this interests me. Let catchers play other positions. I love that when you said that.
So for me growing up, I caught when I was 12, and then I began catching again when I was a junior in high school because my coach told me, you have a better chance to play college baseball at a higher level if you go behind the dish. Okay, I have the IQ for it, but I grew up playing corners, first and third. I grew up playing shortstop. I grew up playing outfield when I played on higher teams. And I found that if I knew where everybody was when I went behind the dish, I could coach while I'm on the field, hey, this guy's a dead pull hitter. Shortstop, go that way.
Move. Yeah.
Third baseman, cover the line.
Yeah.
Hey, he's not going to pull the ball. Let's move, right? And, like, we shift a lot at the youth levels. Now, it's not the ginormous shift that you see, but, like, shifting is just positioning.
Yeah.
So when you hear everybody talk about the shift and they put everything in, like, cool. At the college level, we give up the middle with 2 strikes because a kid's either going to be really late and slap it the other way, or he's going to be dead pull because he's early. So when we get to 2 strikes and in positive counts where he's going to be either early or late and rarely on time, if you can beat us in the oppo gap, awesome.
Right.
But our center fielder moves over, our left fielder moves over, shortstop moves over, second baseman moves away, right fielder comes in a little bit. If you beat us in the gap the other way, awesome.
Right.
But you're probably not going to, because
Right.
how many kids are really going to do that? Go 300 plus feet the opposite way. They're going to slap balls the other way. And like we did it at the 9U level, like I played a shift where I moved our second baseman. If a right-handed hitter was up, our second baseman was playing almost double play depth, even farther towards the base, and our right fielder was in. Like he was probably 15 steps off the grass.
Right.
So if a hard ground ball gets hit to him, he's still throwing the kid out at first. So I'm playing with 5 infielders. Beat me oppo. Show me you can hit the ball the other way.
Yeah.
Because those kids can't. But I want kids to get hits, and I want kids to understand the game and love it. But like our kids bought into it and absolutely loved being able to look in the dugout and say, Coach, should I go this way? And you see them start to read swings and pay attention to stuff. And all I would yell out by the end of the first season was, read it. They'd read one swing, and they could shift themselves at 9 years old.
Right. Well, but again, going back to your point about the catcher being someone that had played other positions, now your job as a coach gets easier because he's going to come out in front of the plate, take his mask off and say, whatever, or he's going to be here or here. He's going to be moving.
But now I can communicate with him as far as, hey, he's off the plate. Hey, his swing is really handsy. Hey, he's trying to go the other way. So I can make a note of it. So when we are calling pitches the next inning against that kid, now we have a different approach.
Right. So you went into my next thing that I wanted to ask you about, because again, you brought it up and I thought it was great when you talked about it, because I'm a big believer. You talked about calling pitches, at young levels. If you don't mind, let's get into that a little bit.
Kids need to learn how to call. And unless you're competing for a state title, like if you're at the varsity level or the college level where you're competing for something, your job might start to become on the line as you start going into it, that's where you can take over. But for me, as a guy we do call pitches. We don't call them in the fall, but we do call them in the spring. If the kid doesn't have a clue of what I want called or what might need to be called here, he's just looking in the dugout and looking for answers.
Right.
And the way that I coach is, I'm not going to be your Google.
Right.
I want you to go figure out what you want to learn,
Sure.
and I'll be a buffer on it, and I'll talk you through it.
Yeah.
So the more that you can become your own coach, the better off you're going to be in the long run. So I think calling pitches at the younger levels, like I said it, go buy a $10 ring for someone if that's what they need, right? Like, go give them a participation ring at the end of the season. Hey, you made it through playing for us for 1 year.
Yeah.
Cool. Like, and like, yes, I get the want of having the rings, and the kids love it, and there is a competition piece. Like, you can go on any video game that's online, and these kids know how to compete. But when there's just another game next weekend, this game doesn't matter.
Right.
When they're playing with their friends and they have to win this game to keep playing that night, it's different.
Yeah.
And kids today know how to compete. We just don't give them the chance to go do it, because it's one of those things is coaches, because of all the information that's out there, youth and travel coaches want to control the game so much because they can. We have to manipulate them so much at the varsity and in the college level when they get to us, because of how much they don't know already.
That's funny, because we talk about on the show, we talk a lot about kids competing. And obviously, I've been around for a long time, okay? And in my day, nobody had to teach us how to compete. We played out in the streets. We played constantly. And I don't find it the same, but I'm not saying that you're wrong, that kids don't know how to compete. I just don't know if they do it enough.
They know how to compete, but the kids that don't aren't interested. Like, our group this year versus last year, this year's group that we have at the college, they hate losing an at-bat, let alone like a full game.
But those are college players.
I'm still dealing with kids that are 18, 19 years old trying to find themselves. Like, I know college baseball is college baseball, but they're still kids. So their first time on their own, they're still trying to figure out themselves. They have to compete for us because we had 74 guys come in this year.
Yeah.
And the difference right now is if they don't like how you coach at the travel level, they can come to me. And if they don't like how I coach, they can go to the next guy and the next guy and the next guy.
Good point.
But I relate it to a job, and I have no problem the way that it works. If you don't like your job and you quit on the spot, they're going to replace you.
Right.
If you're not happy in your job, nothing's keeping you there, maybe besides a contract that you got to buy out of or whatever, but no one's forcing you to work that job. So why are we forcing kids to do stuff? Now, I am all about, like, learning how to deal with struggles, learning how to deal with failure, trying to navigate life. But at the end of the day, if the mental health piece isn't there and the kid isn't happy and relating, go somewhere else.
Right.
because you're not going to be your best player with us.
Right.
As much as we want you around, as much as whatever, I would love to keep all of our kids on campus. I would love to make sure all 100% of our kids get everything out of our program that we want.
Right.
It's not realistic.
Right. Of course not.
Like, so for me, like the transfer portal and guys changing teams and doing, I have no problem with it. It's giving more kids the opportunity to play. It might be watering down the game a little bit, but at the end of the day, when they get to college, they got to figure it out.
Sure.
And if you in the real world have the opportunity to change, if you aren't happy, move on.
Right.
The problem is the parents are unhappy, the kids are. So if it's because the parent's unhappy, if your kid's happy, keep him there.
Sure.
If he's happy being a bench guy, if he's happy being a six hitter, and he's getting better and enjoying it, don't let your emotions get in the way. And that's the issue I have. I mean, think about it like this. Johnny comes home from the game, he gets in the car. He had a good game, but the team lost. Dad, who played or didn't play or whatever, is upset the team lost, probably is questioning a couple of the coaches' decisions. So now he's airing out his ideas to the kid. The kid wasn't unhappy. The kid had a great day.
Right.
Kid got to hang out with 12 friends.
Exactly. And had a good time.
But if only you are negative, that kid's going to become negative.
Sure.
Because, and I see it a lot on the softball side, they want to please you. They want to please coach. They want to please mom and dad.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, if you are their biggest supporter and make sure they're happy, you have issues, keep your mouth shut.
Bingo.
If you have something that you want to address with the coach about maybe how he's talking or whatever, by all means.
Right.
But you're unhappy with Johnny's playing time, but Johnny's having the time of his life. Why are you taking him away from that?
Why you take it? Right.
And that's the issue I have.
And I can tell you that in my parent meeting, I have a little ritual that I go through. And what I say to them is I say, how many of you guys watch football? You know, everybody's hand goes up. So it's okay. What are you doing on Monday morning? And they all kind of like get quiet. They're like, they don't know. So I said, I'll tell you what you're doing. You're beating up the coach. You're beating up the quarterback. He should have done this. He should have punted. Whatever. So you're doing it to guys that are being paid multi-millions of dollars. They're the best in the world at what they do, and you're beating them up. Okay? So I'm not naive enough to think that you're not doing it to me.
Yeah.
All right? However, beat me up all you want. All of you can go out beyond the left field fence. You could say what a jerk I am, what an idiot I am. Don't do it in front of my players, please, because you undermine me. And you want to know something? I think that I've gotten through to almost every group that I've had, you know, say ever since I implemented that within the last 10 years or so.
So when I was the youth director of an Oregon, Dallas, I told all my coaches, keep 80% of your kids happy. So if you can keep 8 kids happy, you're looking at 4 to 5 that'll move on.
Right.
They were probably moving on anyways, because they're looking to become one of the top 8.
Sure.
But if we can keep a group together from 6 to 8 kids together, from the time they're 6 when they start playing, all the way through 14 and then into high school.
Right.
How much better is that team going to be when they go to these showcases?
Sure. It's going to be great.
They know each other.
Yeah.
They know who's playing what. They're going to bounce around. They're not going to care that their best friend that they've known since they were 6 is playing, because they might get frustrated because they're not competing as well. But at the end of the day, that kid that he's grown up with, I still talk to friends from home that I played with when I was 9, 10, 11, where I'm the only one still in baseball, but I still have that relationship with them. We don't talk baseball.
Right.
But when we were at the games, we were creating fake mics, pretending to be Harry Carey, and doing all the fun stuff, because that's what we did in the dugout, and we had the freedom to do so. And like, one of the things for me is, like, I try to keep all of our dugouts as light as possible. Like, stay engaged in the game,
But have fun.
but if we're talking about something that doesn't pertain, but I know you're watching the game, I've sat with pro guys and college guys and summer ball, and the conversations that happen in the dugout are not right for this podcast.
Right.
But you ask that kid to go in, and he's ready to go.
Yeah.
So telling a kid, like, he has to be locked in, he has to be talking to his teammates every single pitch, he's not going to want to be there for the hour 45.
Right.
He's going to be like, okay, well, I'm only going to have fun when I'm doing something.
Right.
Instead of we get to talk about our fun stuff while we're here together, and I go, hey, we need you. This pitch, we need you. And you give them little bursts, it just takes off.
Sure. I mean, I like that because, yeah, it is hard to keep. I know, like with my high school team, sometimes I'll have a squad of 24 players. So my initial conversation with those players in the beginning of the season is, look, we got 24 guys.
Yeah.
There are guys here that are not going to see the field very much.
Yeah.
Just by sheer numbers, it'll be very difficult for me to do it. And I like the idea of, yes, let them have fun. Maybe, you know, an inning or two before you plan on using them or getting them into the game, or hey, guys, get ready. You're probably going to go in the game in the next couple of innings. So, you know, get ready.
I mean, we can, as long, like, I just have hey, clean it up. They know. All right.
There you go.
Maybe too far. Maybe we've gone too far. I don't have to yell at them. Hey, clean it up here. Need you. That's all.
I love that.
And it's just a quick verbal that they know, okay, maybe we're too off topic.
Right.
We'll finish it later. And they lock back in. And I do that with the 18U girls. I do it with our college guys. I do it with 10 and 11-year-old teams. 14 and under, they have to learn how to love the game. If they don't love the game, they're not going to play as well as they could in high school. They're not going to put in the work they need to. Fall in love with the game before 14, and you'll know if you want to play college baseball or not.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. So, and again, it was something that's going to go a little off topic. How is it coaching girls?
I love it.
Yeah.
It is. So, coaching 14 to 18-year-old girls is very comparable to coaching college guys because college softball is their professional baseball.
Right.
Like,
sure.
they have the pro league that's starting, and I hope it takes off. But like for them right now, them playing in front of the coaches at the Alliance and the Firecracker out in Colorado and some of these bigger tournaments, that's their college. So they get it, and they want to learn. What's up?
Great job, brother.
Thank you.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
How's everything? Good.
What's up, man?
Good.
I know. I'll send you guys a text in a minute. But like the girls that they want to compete. They want to get better. They want to learn. And the biggest difference is guys try to be too flashy. Girls try to be too mechanical because they want to please you.
Okay.
So like my biggest cue this fall was go athlete. Go athlete. And they got sick of hearing me say it. And I'm like, I don't want you to please me. I want you to learn how far you can go before you fail. And if you're trying to be perfect mechanically, you're not going to be good. Like, I look at Sis Bates, who just signed a pro contract. She was the shortstop at Washington. She grew up playing with the guys. And she was on SportsCenter every weekend because she made some play that was unreal. And It's like, the softball term of like you're playing Latin is you're playing like a guy. Cool. I don't care. You're competing. Go get after it.
Oh, yeah.
Like, make a jump throw. Make a spin throw. Throw it on the run. Like, go make a diving play.
Be an athlete.
Like, go be an athlete and see how far you can go. And they had a great season. We qualified for Alliance already. So we're already steps ahead of what we were last year. And it's just letting them go have fun.
Right. And that's interesting because I've talked to many people who have coached girls, and I ask the same question all the time, and I have never, ever got a different answer than what you just gave me. Everybody says the same thing. You know, boys are tougher to coach than girls.
So for me, like, I obviously draw the line of friend and coach, but like, if I'm not coaching at a school and I'm coaching you, and you need something at 11 o'clock at night, text me. Like, if you need to talk through something, text me. Like, if you're doing a lesson with me, it's a safe place.
Yes.
If we're just doing a little bit of work and you're talking to me about your day, you got better because you got it out. And, like, that's been probably the toughest transition because, like, the guys have no problem talking to me about XYZ as a high school kid.
Right.
And the girls are starting to, and I'm like, okay, let's draw a line here. I don't need to know about that part of your life, but like, but if you're comfortable enough to talk to me about that, that means you have trust in me, which means I can push you farther.
Well, I mean, if you get a chance, there was one episode that we did with a gentleman, his name is Bill Ekstrom.
Okay.
And he talks about creating those safe spaces for your players. And I thought it was very interesting, you know, when he explained what he meant by that. You kind of went into it a little bit, where, yes, your players trust you enough that they will have those tough conversations with you. You know what? And sometimes that may be the outlet that they need, because maybe they can't talk to mom and dad that way. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the other piece of it, like, I've used a board at practice where everybody's got like a clip or whatever, and it's a board of, hey, like school-wise, I had a crap day at work, I had a crap day at school, I had a bunch of tests, I had a great day at school, like, and go down, and then you can see where the team atmosphere is coming in.
Right.
Because if we had a big test day, I'm not just going to go beat them up on the baseball diamond. So I have to adjust my practice plan.
Right.
So if I'm going to sit there and, hey, we had a really good day. Okay, let's get after it today because everybody's in a good mind space. Let's see how far we can push today.
Right.
If we had a bad day, let's go hit BP. Let's go have some fun. Let's go compete just to get our mind away from it. Because if everybody had tests that day, or testing, or state testing, or however you want to look at it, they're going to be miserable.
Right.
Which means practice is going to be miserable. So if you're sitting there trying to figure that out, like, good luck.
Right.
And if you don't pay attention to that as a coach, you're not going to get the most out of your guys. Now, if there's something that you need to get through, like we're big on mental prep. Alan Yeager talks about it all the time. Before every game, we take a 5-minute visualization. I tell guys we'll do it once a week at practice. If you guys need it, if you guys want it, if the captains come up to me and say, hey, we need that to get started today, by all means, let's ride. Like, let me help you do it.
Yes.
But if we don't need it that day, we can talk about it while we're hitting, while we're doing defense. You can visually go through stuff. But if you need to mentally decompress as a team, cool. I have guys that do it on their own. They'll go lay somewhere in the outfield before practice, 5 minutes, lay down, spread out, focus on their breathing, look up at the sky, do whatever. And I've seen guys take off from that.
Yeah.
Like, they just come out, we got the music blaring, we have fun, they calm down for 5 minutes, and then it's showtime.
Yeah, we do it as a team.
Yeah.
Yes. Alan Jaeger was one of the guys that I learned that from. Sheets was another guy I learned it from. I actually have a mental performance coach that I went to that was teaching me how to teach my players, and it works. We get together, and first thing we do, get to the field, everybody knows what to do, they all relax, lay down, clear their head. It makes a big difference. If you can make them understand that, and we talk about it all the time as coaches, control what you can control, be in the present. Okay, whatever happened during the day is over with. We can't control that anymore. It's done. Let's clear our heads and let's get ready for the next thing.
Yeah.
So yes, I mean, we do a lot of that, believe it or not, at the JV high school level.
The quicker you can, I had my 9U guys do it. Like our 9U guys did it before doubleheaders. Our 12U guys did it between because we were awful in the second game.
Right.
Like they go send them off, they're having their watermelon, hanging out with mom and dad, and then you got to get them zoned back in.
Sure.
So before our warm-up for the second game, I would have them all do it then. So we could re-lock in, they could go through what they did good in the first game, we can focus on what we want to do good in the second game, and we started sweeping doubleheaders.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know if it was because of that, but we were definitely a lot more ready to play in game 2.
Well, I would say if you notice the change between before you did it and after you did it, then there's the proof, right? I think that, and you hit the nail on the head when you said the younger players. I think that the mental performance is something that is almost non-existent at
Coaches
young
don't
levels.
know how to do it.
They don't know how to do it.
And you can't blame a dad that's trying to help his kids get better. Like, you can't put that on them. But the more that, like, I think ABCA is at 8,400 coaches that are youth and travel only, which is huge considering we're probably going to surpass 14,000. So it's over 50% of youth and high school coaches that are coming here, which means we're starting to make an impact.
Yes.
And the more that gets talked about, I know Hannah Hughesman's speaking on the youth stage either today or tomorrow.
But I'm sorry, who?
Hannah Hughesman.
Oh, okay, yes.
She's with the Rangers now.
Yep.
She does a Mental Sweat Monday. I love listening to it. She's great at it,
Yep.
and she knows what she's talking about. She works with the Rangers now. But just getting, even coaches, how can you make your practice better? If you're in a good headspace, if you're coming from work or coming from another field or whatever, and you're walking up to the field pissed off, your players are going to feed off that.
Sure
If you're coming in excited to see them every day, they're going to feed off that. Well, if coach is excited to be here, I should be excited to be here.
Sure. Yeah. I think that, like you said, I think that we are making a little bit of headway into the younger level coaches to make them understand how this works. Another thing I should say that you said during your presentation is find what works for them. And again, that's something that I'm a big proponent of that, only because what I took from what you said was we don't want to create robots. Each kid is individual. Find what works for them. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, so I tell all of our guys, in the fall, I want to know what hitting beliefs you have. I want to know what infield and catching beliefs you have. And then I want to make those stronger. I might challenge them. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm trying to challenge you to be a better coach. So our catching guys, obviously they'll go watch JT Realmuto and Adley Rushman and those guys, and you sit there and go, okay, can you do that? I had one guy want to do JT's hybrid stance where he starts on a knee and then jumps up, and he was showing me, I'm like, Beatty, are you that athletic? Probably not. Okay, so why don't we build off that? If you want to start on a knee, how can we get up faster without jumping? And we sat and caught 500 balls through the course of the week, and he figured it out, and now he's a primarily one knee down guy. Right. And he loves it.
Right.
And he has no issue with it.
Right.
And I look at him and I'm like, well, if he can figure it out, the next guy can.
Sure.
And I talk to my 10-year-olds the same way. We won't get as in depth.
Sure.
But I have 13-year-olds trying to figure out hybrid stances because they're asking questions on it and asking really good questions. If you understand it that well, let's talk about it.
Sure.
Let's see how far I can push you. If you don't understand it, I'll back off.
Right.
But if I can have these high-level conversations, I can start to say, okay, yes, you understand this. Can your pitchers do that for you, where you can do it?
Right.
So, my dad, TJ.
Hi, TJ. Jimmy, Phil, and Jerry. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So,
I had one more thing, and then I was going to let you go. As far as what you were just saying about working with them to get where they want to be in terms of mimicking this catcher or whatever, it makes the player happy that you're working with him to get him where he wants to be. Yes or no?
Yeah, so I have two goals as a coach. I want to create a player that becomes his own coach and wants to coach, and I don't want to be his last coach. So if I'm not his last coach, that means he went on and got better somewhere else and got more experience and got verbiage. So when he does become a coach, they can come back to me and teach me what they know. And the more that we can develop more coaches through the ranks, I knew when I was 12 years old that I wanted to coach at some point in my life when I was done playing.
That's interesting.
I knew it. But I had the freedom we were at the field every day. I would go hit with the older guys. We'd go have home run derbies. The Little League Park was right by the house. By 13, 14, we probably had 4 home run derbies a week. We would throw to each other. We'd set the screen up, and we learned how to throw BP to each other. We'd hit. We'd have fun for 2 hours, and we'd go home. And the more that we can develop coaches, meaning the kid learns how to coach himself, I don't want him to be disrespectful, but if you want to argue with me, let's talk. Right. Because it's going to make us both better at the same. We're going to come to an agreement.
Sure.
And you might change my thought, and I hope you do, because I don't have it all figured out. I never will.
None of us will.
But if I can learn from you, and hey, this is what I'm feeling, this is my feel, okay, well, the reel looks okay, let's see if it works. And then you just go from there.
Yeah. Great. I got to tell you something. Really, Jake, this was a great interview. I loved your presentation, and thank you so much for taking the time.
Absolutely. Any way I can help, please let me know.
Absolutely. Again, thank you very much.
Absolutely.
So tell me, was that fantastic or what? The one big takeaway that I got out of the conversations that I had while I was at this convention was that everybody is there to learn, to make themselves better so that they can help others. I mean, it seemed to be universal. Everybody was talking about that. It's just a really great environment that I think anybody who's a baseball coach should really be interested in, at the very least, joining the ABCA. And then if you're lucky enough and fortunate enough to be able to go to the conventions, then when you go there, I guess you'll see what we all mean when we say it's like a Disneyland for baseball coaches. And make sure you keep an eye out. There are 2 more interviews that I'm going to be releasing very soon, and I'm sure you're going to love those too. So once again, thanks for listening, and I'm sure, I know, any of the coaches that I talked to while I was at the convention understand that people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thanks everyone, and see you on the next one.